something. So rejected in its current form, that means technically these issuers could go back to the drawing board and try to rework something, make some tweaks and resubmit it again?
I have a feeling that's what they're going to be talking about now. As Will was sort of explaining on the show earlier today, I think they want to kind of like digest this, have a look at exactly what the SEC has said, and then have another crack. The question is, are they going to be able to do anything really different that kind of allays the SEC's fears?
Because the concern for the SEC is not even really the structure of the ETF or anything like that. It's fundamental, the Bitcoin market itself and where it's traded and how regulated it is and whether it's prone to manipulation or not. And that's not really something that's in the ability of them to control.
And this shouldn't really be a surprise. I mean, to give the SEC its dues, I mean, they've been incredibly consistent about what they need to see answered before they will be comfortable with an ETF. They came out in January this year, and one of their 5 key concerns was manipulation. When they denied the Winklevoss twins ETF last month, one of the reasons for that was manipulation. And that's exactly what we see again in this. And they talk a lot about, you know, whether the exchange has the ability to adequately survey the market and has enough of an agreement to surveil the market with others that might be able to see more. And ultimately, they concluded that there isn't a sufficient market in Bitcoin futures to really allow for that.
You say this was signposted. The market thinks so too. I mean, Bitcoin trading up 1.5%. They expected these to be rejected, but now all hope seem to pin on this VanEck SolidX ETF because it's really primarily focused at institutional investors, sort of ironically for...
Well, it is the great irony, right? You know, not only are we talking about whether Bitcoin can be more regulated, which is hugely ironic given what its whole purpose was, we're now talking about an ETF that would be designed for institutional investors. So this whole kind of world has gone topsy-turvy, and we're talking about some very unusual things. But when it comes to actually whether a VanEck ETF could be approved, the next deadline on our calendars is sort of the end of September, when we should get a preliminary word from the SEC as to whether they need more time or whether they're ready to make a decision. They could push this through to February, I believe.
What is a surveillance agreement?
So a surveillance agreement, to my understanding of it, is when you have the exchange where the exchange traded product is actually listed, has an agreement with the market which is underlying. So in this case, it would be the CFTC or the CME to actually be able to see the futures that are being traded. Now, the issue at the moment is the futures market in Bitcoin is relatively small still. In fact, I think there was some good research on Bloomberg Intelligence earlier this month or last month that showed that the volume of contracts is actually lower in the second quarter than it was in the first quarter, even though the number of contracts had gone up. So that market's still pretty small. So then you get into, well, can you surveil the underlying of the underlying, which is obviously the Bitcoin market, and you get into some pretty tricky territory there about whether there's going to be manipulation or not.